Hey everyone, my name is Alan Gongora. I'm managing partner of Langon Law Group. And today we'll be talking about the basics of starting a business in Colombia. This is the first in a four-part series explaining how to start a business in Colombia. And as always, let's get started with some things you should consider as we proceed with these particular set of tutorials. These tutorials are intended to help anyone interested in starting a new business in Colombia. For anyone purchasing an existing business or maybe expanding an existing business into the Colombian market, you will probably find this tutorial to be very, very useful. However, feel free to check out our YouTube channel or even our Facebook page because we may have already published additional tutorials that may be more relevant to your own specific legal situation. The difficulty level for these tutorials is basic. This means that you don't really need any prior understanding of this process. And it also means you don't need any specialized knowledge of the topic. It should be very, very user-friendly for anyone interested in starting a new business in Colombia. As always, keep in mind that these tutorials are only intended to provide general observations and suggestions. Remember that I'm actually a New York corporate attorney, and while everything you will hear and see has been reviewed and approved by Colombian attorneys, these tutorials are not intended to provide actual legal advice. We highly recommend that you consult with your own local attorney to discuss your own specific legal requirements. And with that out of the way, let's get started. First, let's go through a brief description of each episode in this series. Episode 1, pre-registration considerations. In this episode, we will outline several key considerations you will need to keep in mind before you actually register your business. Episode 2, pre-registration checklist. In this episode, we will provide you with a pre-registration checklist to ensure everything goes smoothly. Episode 3, registration. In this episode, we will summarize the registration process and we'll also give you some really good tips that will help you save time and money. Episode 4, putting it all together. In this episode, we will synthesize all of the things we have learned throughout these tutorials into a very practical step-by-step summary of how to start a business in Colombia. These tutorials are based on a very popular set of presentations our local law firm have made over the past 10 years. They're structured so that you can get a great overview of the business registration process. But obviously, each business is different, which means each business will have different strategies, they'll have different legal considerations. So make sure you consult with your own local attorney prior to getting started so that you don't miss anything that may be key to your own specific business model. As always, we will be publishing a list of key terms you will need to know as you start your new business in Colombia, with corresponding translations for those of you who are still not very comfortable reading in Spanish. Feel free to check out our website at www.langoncolombia.com for more information. One of the most important decisions you will need to make is whether you will register your business as either a solo proprietorship or as a separate business entity. A solo proprietorship, which is often referred to as a persona natural in Colombia, allows you to register your business in your own name without having to have an actual company involved. This literally means that your business setup is essentially the following. You as the business owner, a name you will give your business, and a local bank account. That's it. Here are some basic benefits of solo proprietorships. Number one, they are simple and less expensive to set up, which means you'll spend less money on legal and administrative fees. They're also more tax efficient in general. Depending on your business, you may actually be more tax efficient than doing business through a business entity. Here are some downsides of sole proprietorships. No limited liability. This means that if something goes wrong, let's say you get sued, for example, you would be personally liable. They're also pretty clunky for partnerships, so if you plan to have business partners, registering a company may actually be the way to go. Finally, there's no company owner visa. You won't be able to apply for a company owner visa via a sole proprietorship because that's just not allowed. The ideal business for a sole proprietorship should be maybe a home office business that doesn't have any employees, maybe provides low-risk consulting services, something like that, that would be sort of less risky for the business. We will return to sole proprietorships in future tutorials. For now, note that for this particular tutorial series, we will assume you will choose a corporate business entity for your business. There are a variety of business structures that you can use to register your business in Colombia. These include the SAS format, something called Sociedad por Acciones Simplificada, the SA, which is Sociedad Anónima, the Limited, which is Sociedad de Responsabilidad Limitada, and the Sociedades en Comadita, which is abbreviated to S&C as well as SCA. We don't really need to delve too deeply into these various business structures. Bottom line, since 2008, when the SAS structure was introduced, it has displaced most other business structures in Colombia. Here are some basic advantages of this business structure. It operates like a glorified S-Corp. It provides maximum flexibility for most business owners. The same person can be a shareholder, a legal representative, as well as a general manager at the same time. Plus, there's no need for a board of directors. Note that for this tutorial, we will assume you will choose a SAS entity for your business. One of the most important things you will need to do is to determine who will make decisions on behalf of your new business and how those decisions will be made. If you'll be the sole owner of your own business, this is probably less critical because obviously being the only owner means you get to call all the shots. Which means you will completely control your own business, which can be great. But if you will have additional business partners or your company will issue additional shares to other owners, things can get a little more interesting and probably more complicated. Bottom line, before you start your business, you need to make sure all the partners, all the shareholders agree on a wide variety of issues that affect your company. These can include things like, will your company have one or many decision makers? Will your company have a board of directors? What happens if there's a deadlock among the owners when making decisions? There are literally dozens of key questions impacting decision making that partners should ask themselves before getting started. One of the most challenging issues for new business owners in Colombia is how to navigate business banking. It can be a nightmare. Here's a non-exhaustive list of issues you may need to contend with as you start your business in Colombia. Number one, timing restrictions. Most banks in Colombia will not allow you to transfer funds into your business bank account for at least 6 months. This allows banking institutions to review your account in order to identify potential money laundering activity. Number two, need for brokerage accounts. Because of this 6-month restriction that I just mentioned, most foreigners who start a business will need to register a local brokerage account in order to capitalize their companies over the short term. The idea will be to switch over to using your own normal business bank account once the 6-month restriction expires. Number three, proof of funds analysis. Business owners will also need to provide local banks with documentation that proves that all funds being transferred into Colombia are legitimate. The documentation required will vary widely depending on the actual source of funds involved. We will be discussing visa options for business owners in a separate tutorial. For now, keep in mind that you may be able to apply for a variety of visas as a result of registering your business in Colombia. These include, for example, a company owner visa, a standard business visa, a migrant work visa, as well as a visitor's work visa. Check with your local attorney to confirm which visa strategy works best for you. And that's the end of our first episode in this series. We encourage you to watch the remaining episodes so you can gain additional insight into the business registration process in Colombia. We hope you found the information presented to be both useful and practical. From myself and the rest of our team in Colombia, thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest content from our local law firm in Colombia.